What's up, everybody? I've got a special guest for you, so before we wait any longer, let's get the show rolling. Yo, what's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of Too Much Fantasy Football. And ladies and gentlemen, I have a treat for you today. Joining us is a powerhouse in the fantasy football world. She's the host of the Get Real Pod and a two-time fantasy sports writing Best Fantasy Podcast finalist. She creates amazing content over at Rotoball, South Harmon, and the Fantasy Six Pack. Not only that, but she's the proud owner of Sunday Dreamer Club, all that great fantasy football apparel. Some say she coined the word dope. Give it up a warm welcome for Casey Kasem.
Hey, thanks for
having me. How are we doing today?
Oh, dope. Hey.
I figured it's got to be somewhat true, right? I read it in a book somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, welcome in. I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day, coming to hop on the pod, the show for us a little bit. It's middle of June. There's nothing going on right now, so we've got to find time to fill our day, you know?
Yep, for sure. It's that time. It's like a nice time because football's almost here, but at the same time, it's like, you can be a little chill, a little relaxed. It's nice. Right.
Waiting for those crazy storylines to come out of the weeds just because we don't have anything tangible to talk about right now.
Right.
But, just like most others, if they're watching this show, they're, looking for content. And what better content than, your podcast? It's initially how I found you. And for those of the, people that haven't heard, Get Real Pod is, I feel like, a necessity in this space. The amount of content creators that there are out there, people that are making, videos, podcasts, all of this. Sometimes you just pick that wrong episode. Like, there's tons of podcasts I've jumped on, and that first episode, I'm like, I don't really know how I feel, so you move on. And I feel like your podcast has been an amazing way to kind of segue me into that creator. All right, let me get more than just the 20 minutes that they're going to give me in this episode. Let me find out a little bit more. So it kind of gives me that, that pathway. Hey, do I want to actually follow this person regularly? And I guess tell me a little bit about the podcast. Why'd you start it?
Yeah, for sure. First and foremost, like, my favorite thing in the entire world is my podcast. Love that podcast so much. Back in 2020, when everybody was at home and trying to figure out what they wanted to do because they were bored, I started a fantasy football podcast with my friend, and it didn't actually go anywhere. We were kind of just testing the waters. And then I decided I wanted to kind of do something different. And Matt Harmon had his backyard banter show back in the day where he would interview people in the space and learn more about, the backgrounds of these people, their everyday life and everything. And I was like, I kind of want to do something like that, like kind of a talk show, kind of an interview, kind of pick people's brains, because starting out is really scary and trying to figure out where to start, how to get started, all that stuff. Like, I wanted to be able to kind of grow as I did this podcast and learn and learn and learn. And that's what it's been, is just like a journey of me learning more. And hopefully all the people that listen to the podcast have learned a lot from it too, because there's so many valuable lessons to be learned in this space. And to see people that are like Matthew Berry status and have him talk about, having to, get to where he is and what he's had to put into it. And just to, like Liz Lowe's, I've had so many, and then even smaller creators, giving them a shot to come on and talk, and then seeing them grow and just being like, I had a little part in that, maybe, So it's been a lot of fun.
Getting credit for that,
Yeah. Like, hey,
royalties coming back to you.
When he had 200 people following him, and now I'd like to pretend that I'm at least a little part of the growth. But yeah, it's been a blast, and I've been doing it for years, over 100 episodes now. More dropping, awesome. So many fun stuff. So yeah, lots of stories and lots of great people.
Yeah, once you get that 100th episode, I feel like it's just at that point, you're comfortable, you're rolling. I've got a movie podcast where we're like episode 80-ish, so we're almost to that hump, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's still, feels like a new thing every single time you hop on.
Definitely.
But yeah, I love I guess the name too. The first time I ever saw you pop up, I got it mixed up. I was like, wait, the top 40 Casey Kasem, that's kind of where, I went, I saw you a tweet the other day. I guess you had some older person come up to you, saw the shirt, and they thought that's who it was.
Yeah.
Love that. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, you can really tell people's ages based on if they know who Casey Kasem is or not. And
Right.
If they don't get
Oh
it, they
yeah.
don't get it.
Oh yeah. I guess my parents aren't terribly old, but I definitely remember them in the car. Top 40 going. Like that's all my mom would have on. It's like, come on, mom, let's mix it up just a little bit.
Let's mix it up.
It was that or her Dixie Chicks CD that she ran
Right.
for years on years. So before we get too into actual fantasy football, for the few people watching the show that don't know you, we got to dive in a little bit. Let's really get to know you, and no better way than one of those hard hitting questions: milk or cereal? Which one do you put in first?
I put cereal in first,
Okay, cool.
a good portion of us do. I'm not really the biggest milk fan in the world. I actually like to just eat cereal straight out of the box.
Nice.
That's
Just
kind
a
of
little
how I
snack.
roll. But yeah, milk after the cereal.
Okay, cool, cool. I was on the eject button. I didn't want to have to kick you off, but there's those crazy people out there, and you got to look out for them.
Yeah, you got to look out.
Yeah, I don't know who's doing it. Putting your cereal first, it's every time, folks. Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I used to down cereal all the time, but I kind of moved away from milk a little bit, so I don't know that I've actually tried alternative milk with cereal. Might have to check that out this weekend.
Yeah.
Big old bag of Reese's Pieces or
Oh,
Reese's
those are
Puff.
good. Yeah,
I was a
those are
huge fan
good.
of the Reese's Puff back in the
That's
day.
what's up.
You got a favorite?
Do I have a favorite? I like tricks. I'm a kid.
Hey, that's who they're for.
There you go.
Next one we've got for you. Uh, would you rather rob a bank or break out of prison? You had to do one.
If I had to do one, I'd be bad at both of them, that's for sure. I was
Right,
thinking
right.
about
Sorry.
this, no, I'd be really bad. I'd probably go with, I don't know, I'd probably be quote unquote better at robbing a bank. Yeah, I don't think I'd get away with it.
Right.
um, I'm not really the most cleverest and easiest to like navigate certain situations. I often freeze when I'm supposed to like fight. So like, we'll see
Hey,
what
it's a
happens.
response.
It's a
That
response.
that
It'll
fight,
get me
flight, or
caught.
freeze. Absolutely. I didn't realize it was built in me at points until like there's been times I'm like I didn't make a decision at all.
Yeah. Yep. That's so I'd probably be there about to rob the bank and just like, okay, now what do I do? But I try. How about that?
Hey, well,
If
it's
I
the
had to.
effort.
If I had
Yeah,
to.
A for effort. If we had to. Yeah, I don't know. I was always obsessed with the Wild West as a kid, so I always thought like being a bank robber would be so cool. Way back in the day, pre
Back in the
fingerprints, all that fun stuff.
day.
Maybe not
Yeah.
necessarily robbing them with at gunpoint, all that, but I don't know. Just the thought of like, wouldn't it have been so easy? There's no alarms, there's no electricity. Can't you just? I don't know.
Yeah.
Later discussion, I guess, right? And then I guess we'll segue a little bit into fantasy football here with what's your favorite format? We've got so many now,
Yeah.
redraft, dynasty, best ball. Is there? We've got all the
All the
boards
fun
right there
stuff.
behind you.
Yeah, these are all redraft boards. I like to do live drafts. I love live drafts. This is my home league, so badass. Yeah, the format that I like, I am a big redraft fan, but Dynasty has been one of those things that kind of just like took over my life, and then you have to like back up. If you're like me, you back up and you say, okay, that's way too many leagues. Let's take it down a few notches. But most people, they're like cool with having a ton of Dynasty leagues. Dynasty, I just love because all my teams suck, but the rebuilding process has been such a learning process for me. Haven't learned that much if they still suck, but I'm trying. Yeah, Dynasty. I was a tight end premium gal for a while. Now I'm just like whatever because tight ends don't really matter to me, uh,
Right.
unless you get one of like the top guys and like whatever. But yeah, Dynasty I think is probably like the top tier, and then redraft right after that. But I love it all. Yeah.
I gotcha. It's like picking between kids. There's
It
not supposed to be a
is,
favorite.
like redraft's my first love, and then Dynasty comes in all sparkly and flashy, and I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, I think I've only been doing Dynasty. This will be my fourth season doing Dynasty. Always been obsessed with it. Never had a group
Mhm.
of people that I could actually, start a league with. So finally jumped in them. And like you said, huge learning curve. I went
Yeah.
all in that first year, played to win, and now I'm learning you don't draft running backs early. In the startup draft, you wait a little bit on the running back. So, yeah, spending a couple of years on that rebuild the learning curve, but it's been
Yeah.
it's been fun. But redraft, yeah, like you said, special place in my heart for the OG, I guess, the original.
OG, yeah.
It is for me anyway.
For sure.
So let's get into fantasy football now that we took that initial bite. Where did your fantasy football journey start? How long you've been playing? Is it something that's tale as old as time, or is it newer?
I say it's newer. 2011 it really wasn't that new, but like 2011 for me was when I think I first started playing. Hadn't actually known much about it prior to playing, so like because none of my friends really played, but I had one friend who was like, "We're looking for one more person to be in our league. You love the Dallas Cowboys. That's my team. You watch football all the time, so why don't you join our league? I promise you'll love it." And I did. I mean, I won. I know that's the story that a lot of people tell is first time I played, I won, but I actually did. So it kind of got me hooked. And then I started my own league after that with a bunch of women. And it's just been, growing and growing and growing. So yeah, that's when it all started. Thanks, Michael Dixon, who I don't talk to anymore, but you got me involved. So I'm very happy to be where I am because of you.
100%. Yeah, I feel like right around that time is when the apps smartphones
Yep.
were there, and I think that was a huge game changer for fantasy football. The fact that you had it on your phone and you didn't have to rush to a computer to find one. Because I played a little bit prior to that, like high school ish. I graduated in 2010, so like right just a few years before that, I dabbled into it, but I didn't have internet on my computer in my room. My parents didn't give me internet.
See,
I
I
didn't
was a
have full
grown
access.
adult.
Right?
So
Yeah. So I think right around that time is right when I got crazy with it. As like I said, on my phone. Uh, so I was gonna ask about the podcast. I already jumped the gun on that one.
hey, it's
It's
such a
okay.
great thing. So
As far as like draft tendencies, do you find yourself like stuck in kind of the same way that you play all the time? Like, do you like the onesie positions? Like, I'm not a huge fan of taking quarterbacks. I like give me the guys at the bottom of the barrel. I'll wait late. But also, I'm an addict when it comes to running backs. I know you're supposed to wait on them,
yeah.
whatever strategies there are, the zero RBs, but my home league, man, it's aggressive. I take
Yeah.
those running backs early.
No,
What
I
about
get
you?
that. Yeah. Every league is so different. You kind of have to know who you're playing with and know that like it's going to be different. Like mock drafts and real drafts are completely different a lot of the time. So, um,
100%.
yeah, I used to be one of those people that waited on quarterbacks, and now I'm kind of like one of those people that's like very hesitant to pull the trigger early on a quarterback. But there's certain situations where I'm like, okay, if I passed up this opportunity, then I'm going to kick myself for this. So I've become more fluid with how I draft and kind of see how the draft unfolds as I go, what comes to me. I do tend to draft a lot of running backs early. I know that because I'm trying to hit on those guys that are more bell cow, less, question marks and all that stuff. But there's only, football keeps changing, fantasy football keeps changing, so you just kind of have to stay on your toes and weave in and out, bob back and forth, and try to figure it out. Yeah,
100%.
so I kind of get chill with it now. I'm not, and plus waivers are my best friend. So like if I draft crappy, then at least I have that to fall back on.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm somewhat of a quarterback killer for some reason. The quarterback, if I ever take it early, ACL, calling it. If there was a way to put money on it, I need to
All
start
right.
doing it because I quit taking them because I feel like I'm just hurting these guys.
Yeah.
But it sounds like pretty disciplined when it comes to drafting. I will say for myself, I feel like as far as giving advice, I'm great. I take out the emotion out of it, very logical.
Yeah.
When it comes to my team, though, no, I'm an emotional wreck. I've got my biases that are playing into it. I like tell myself, do not draft this guy, and he falls around, and I can't do it. Are you a little bit more like strict, disciplined when it comes to that, or do you fall to the emotion of the draft?
I'll fall to the emotion of the draft. I'm not gonna lie. That comes with it. I can prepare all I want and think I'm gonna go a certain way, and then like it actually happens, and I'm like, this looks nothing like I had planned. This looks
Yep.
nothing like why do I have these players on my roster who I do not roster anywhere else, and I would never take them in a million years, but they fell to me at whatever spot, and you're like, yeah. I mean, if I don't take them, is there something going on that I don't know? Like, why
Right? The
isn't somebody taking this
paranoia.
player yet? Yeah, you start just freaking out, and you're like, well, so yeah, I've got a lot of that too. That's why a cold beverage, kind of helps take the edge off and yeah, get me back grounded. But yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I tilt my face off. It's so bad, and it's always my home league too. Like I can be logical in some of my other leagues, but then it's my home league. Like they're doing completely the opposite of where anybody else would be doing, whatever conventional strategy says. And
Yeah.
yeah, all of a sudden I'm looking at my team. I'm like, I've never mocked a single one of these players. Why does it look like just dog shit? Yeah,
Okay, I'm not the only one that feels like this. That's good to
oh
know.
no, 100% every time, and it's just my team, and it's mainly the home league. Like I've
Mhm.
got a couple guys in my home league that they check into football about August 25th, 26th. There's so much content out there. They can find somebody's draft guide for free sitting out there, and all of a sudden I'm just getting my ass kicked
Yeah,
every year.
every year.
It's funny. I've got the most championships in that league, and I've also got the most last place finishes in that league. It's
Yeah,
quite the accomplishment.
I'm pretty sure I'm with you on my home league too. Like, I came out strong, but the last, I just, yeah, it's not happening.
I can't fall in the middle for some reason. I guess, do you have any personal rules for fantasy football as far as like avoiding players or like draft limits, anything that you kind of like hold yourself accountable to? Any lessons you've learned over the years?
The lessons that I've learned over the years don't stick with me, so I guess they're not that great of lessons. Yeah, I don't. I try to avoid injured players, bec- and it's mainly because people give me such a hard time when I draft them. They're like, "Why the hell would this, that, and the other?" And
Oh
I'm like,
yeah.
"I just don't want to deal with it, right?" But then at the same time, it's like then you're passing up maybe on something that could turn out to be good because you never know. It's so funny how this game works. You really never know what's going to happen, or some weird injury is going to happen, or somebody that's been injury prone isn't injury prone anymore. Like all of a sudden, like, oh, that stigma that stuck with him for a while, but really he's not injury prone. Um, so yeah, I'm like looking at bye weeks and stuff. I know people do that a lot too, and like for some reason my brain just kind of floats away when it comes to bye weeks, and I don't really pay attention to that as much.
That's future Casey's problem. I don't have to
Yeah,
worry
it's
about
future
that.
Casey's problem. Everything's future Casey's problem. That's part of my problem in life is everything's future. Every bit.
Yeah,
But
future Brian
um
hates past Brian. They do not get along.
oh yes, future Casey's like, what the heck were you thinking, idiot? But but when it comes to fantasy football, I mean, like I said, I let the draft kind of dictate how I'm going to draft. So I don't really have too many rules when I go into it on what I'm not going to. I mean, there's certain players where I'm like, yeah, I've never drafted that player before, and there's nothing personal. It's just like they don't blow me away, and they're not somebody I want on my roster. And usually that turns out to be wrong, but we learn as we go.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I always remember that exception and never the rule.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, there was that one time I didn't pick
Yep.
up that injured player and I lost because of it. Or,
Yep.
yeah, timeless. And like right now, I feel like we're dealing with it with OTAs right around the corner. Kyron Williams a few weeks ago, said to have a little foot issue, finished out OTAs. Xavier Worthy, the rookie for Kansas City, is dealing with a hamstring issue. Like the explosion, Patrick Mahomes, the speed, and then there's the
Yeah.
hamstring. So it's
Yeah.
which side of which side of the fence you're sitting on yet?
No.
No.
I
I got
will
6 weeks
be
to figure that out.
100% honest with you. I probably would figure it out 6 minutes before the draft. So like
Smart. You can't
that is
overthink it.
just can't. I mean, I probably will overthink it the entire time, and then a light bulb will go off and just be like, okay, are you really going to even remember this draft like next year? You're probably not. So let's just don't be so hard on yourself.
Right, pump the brakes, folks. It's okay.
Pump the
It's okay.
brakes. It's okay.
Like you said, grab a nice cold one. And all the troubles
Oh
go
yeah,
away.
just chill out, hang out with your homies, and have a good time.
100%. Oh, man. Just looking at all those live drafts. I haven't done a live draft in I don't know how long, but just looking at those boards, I'm like, all right, is there any way I can get the home league together? Because we're across like 3 different states. I've got some in
Yeah,
Texas,
that's what
one up
happened.
in Ohio.
Yep, that's what happens is people start moving away, or people don't have the time to come meet up and do stuff. And that's okay, but I'm always down for a live draft. If anybody ever has one and I'm right there and they need an extra person to join, I'm right there. I'll volunteer right here. So, yeah, my favorite.
Uh, so we kind of touched on that emotional portion of it. One of my biggest issues, the Sunday morning tinkering. Do you find yourself in that boat? Can you set your lineup and walk away, or are you up until kickoff? Know this guy. Know this guy.
When I first started, constantly on my phone, constantly on my computer, trying to tinker until you couldn't move anybody anymore because games started. Like, that's me. Now, I like barely wake up in time to set my lineup. Like, it'll be like 2 minutes to kick off, and I'm like, holy crap, I have to go through all of these and try to figure out and then you're like, oh, I'm not gonna do that next week. But then, it happens every now and then you miss a league or two. But now I can just set it and kind of just like I'll peer at it every now and then, maybe like tinker with it if somebody's out or something. But like I can just enjoy my Sunday watching football, hanging out, and not constantly be on my phone like I used to. I don't know how I got out of that habit, honestly. I don't know if it was just like, eh, if I win, I win. After you start winning for a while, you're constantly checking because you want to make sure you're continuously still at the top. But like if you're
Oh,
in the middle or the
100%.
bottom, I'm like, okay, I don't need to check it too much.
Right.
Just ah, ah.
Oh man, yeah, I'm a hot mess. I get up like way earlier than I should. Like I'm up 5, 6 naturally for work. So
Yeah.
like Sunday morning, it's hell on earth in this house. I'm East Coast, so kickoff isn't till 1. I'll be pacing around with my
Okay.
phone. My wife's like, "Sit down, go outside. You can't do this," because yeah, it's seven
Yeah.
hours of me just like tinkering, tinkering, tinkering.
Tinkering. Yeah, I definitely used to be like that. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but yeah.
Well, you got to teach me the ways there. I've got to figure it out here soon.
You just gotta get older. As you get older, and you just have, yeah, and you
I
forget
thought
stuff.
I thought just continuing to add leagues, maybe that would help drown it out a little bit, like just
Maybe
overwhelm me so much.
it might overwhelm you so much. I don't know. I'm only in a handful of leagues, so luckily for me, like I guess that's helped too. Is only having a few leagues to actually mess around with. 3 dynasty leagues and a handful of redraft charity leagues and the home league. So yeah,
Yeah, I find myself Tuesday night, I hate myself. I'm like, why did I join so many? Like it's
yeah.
it's
No,
it's
I
hell.
yeah. Sometimes I mean, sometimes it's so rewarding, but sometimes it's just like, oh my gosh, way too much.
Right, I get you. Um, so how do you separate fantasy from fandom? Like you said, you're a Cowboys fan,
Hmm.
so I mean, having Cowboys players in fantasy wasn't too bad last year. But
No.
do you run into that issue? Do you avoid Cowboys players just not to mix the two? Do you find yourself gravitating toward them?
I find myself gravitating towards them because they're good for the most part. The players that you're going to get, like CD Lamb, like, yeah, obviously I'm gravitating towards CD Lamb. Like, that's CD Lamb. Not so much running backs or anything like that, but, sorry, Zeke. Um, when it comes to my fandom, I don't just ignore a player because they're from the Cowboys. I will definitely snag a player from the Cowboys if I'm on the clock and they're the best player in my opinion that's available. Anytime I do that, people will start calling me out. They'll be like, "Oh, homer pick right there," and it's like, really, would you not have taken CeeDee Lamb there, or would you not have
Right.
taken Dak there when you don't have a quarterback yet? Like, calm down, everybody. It's not a homer pick; it's a good pick. So, I mean, when I first started playing again, yeah, I think I took like players that I liked more often than like actually doing the research to see who I need to take and maybe not go 3 rounds ahead, pull somebody that's you could get in the fourth round in the second or something like that. But yeah, I don't really with the Cowboys, like there's so many good players on that team. Jake Ferguson's one guy that I'm not taking, but I still like him. I just if I'm going to take Cowboys players and I got to leave one guy off the list, that's still good.
Hmm.
I don't want to seem like super homer, and plus I said tight ends don't really matter to me. So, but yeah,
Just shipping them off. So if you had the choice, would you get rid of kickers or tight ends off your redraft league?
um, isn't that funny? Probably kickers, even though but I had to think about it for a minute. I like tight ends. Okay, I like kickers too. I really wouldn't get rid of anybody. I like add more positions. I don't care. Um, but
I like it.
yeah,
Yeah, I've been trying to get rid of kickers for years. My wife is like hard. She's like, no, we're not getting rid of them.
yeah.
And like,
My
I'm like,
wife's the same way. No
she's like,
kickers.
no. Do you know how many points I get from kickers every week? I'm
Yeah,
like, less than your running back.
yeah, yeah,
But she's beaten me a handful of times with the kicker defense combo.
yeah.
So that's why I
Mm,
lose my home league right there. It's the freaking kickers. It's the
kickers,
defenses.
kickers, and defense. That's what we got in our home league too. So like, yeah.
So with those Cowboys running backs, I've been beating my head against the wall. I cannot figure. they didn't add hardly anybody to the running back room, to the wide. I mean, Zeke's back, but they didn't add a whole lot. So it's the offense is going through CD.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has to,
100%.
right? But
That's
one of those running back, like one of them has to be valuable, at least at cost. You're spending nothing
yeah,
on them. Do you have a
yeah.
favorite between the two?
Man, that's really hard. Like
Because I
neither,
want
but
Zeke.
if I had to, yeah, Zeke would be probably just because I see them getting him the ball to score a, here's a garbage
Mm.
time touchdown here. Here's a fun, take it in. He just fall in for a touchdown. Do the old Jason Witten fall into the end zone kind of thing. Let's
Right?
go.
Yeah. It's so hard because Dowdle, like, okay, you should
Yeah,
be gravitating to the young player. Most of
yeah,
these other
right,
backfields where it's like an ambiguous running back room, I'm going to the younger guy. But for some
right.
reason, it's just like I guess I want to be hurt. I want to take
Yeah,
Zeke and I just want to be punished because I don't know. I
yeah.
was hoping you could talk me out of it, but
I
maybe we're
can't.
Team Zeke.
Team Zeke might be a little far, but
Okay, I won't pass the banner your
Team
way. It's just me.
Team Zeke for some games, but I don't know. Best ball maybe.
Yeah, I do have a handful of Zeke and best ball a little bit. Just because like I can't not.
Yeah.
I've got to take one of
Right.
them.
Right.
Got to stick the
Yeah.
toe in the water.
There you
But yeah,
go.
it's one of those backfields I just cannot figure out at all.
Yeah, it's kind of gross. As a Cowboys fan too, watching it is like, oh my god, what are you guys doing?
Speaking of which, we saw Jamar Chase get paid. So I'm sitting here wondering, what are the Cowboys doing? Do they re-sign CD? Or I mean, obviously they're going to re-sign him, but like, is there a reason we're waiting? Like, what?
I don't know. Is there a is there a
Is there
reason they do
somebody in
anything in
Dallas?
that organization? Like that organization is just so poorly everything. Like I don't know. I constantly am cursing about the whole situation. Like we have these like what are you doing? Anyway,
Yeah, I've lived out in Texas a couple different times, and got to really ingratiate myself with the fandom and learn. And I feel like that whole, it's been 30 years since the Super Bowl, so that talk has been down a little bit, and now it's that frustration. I almost feel myself empathizing with those Cowboys fans. Like they've got so much talent there. Let's see a little
hmm
success,
I
and
would love that. I was 10 when they won the Super Bowl last. Like, come on, guys. Come
it's
on.
been
For me, in my lifetime, in my
just one,
adulthood,
just one.
just one in my adulthood that I can remember, like really enjoy. I don't
You've
know.
got Brady gone, so the chances are there. Being a Colts fan, I had nothing but heartbreak for
Yeah.
20 years watching Peyton just go home early. It's okay. It's okay.
It's
I'll
okay.
get
We
over it
can
one day.
we'll both get over it, maybe. We'll see. Or we just join more fantasy football leagues to get our minds off of it.
That's exactly what I do. I just kind of numb myself out. I am one of the people, I will avoid Colts players.
Mm,
Not altogether. I'm not going to make a stupid move there, but
right.
if I've got the choice between Michael Pittman and one of those other wide receivers, I'm going to take one of the other guys just so I don't
I
double
get,
down on the hurt when it happens.
I get that. Yeah, for sure.
Expectations, you got to keep them low. Never
Yeah.
disappointed. Sad as that sounds. Oh man. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. I don't want to keep you away from your day. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show
No,
with us
thank
today.
you.
Talk a little fantasy football, giving me and everybody more insight to you. Before we get out of here, though, is there where else can we find you? What else you working on?
For sure. Yes. First and foremost, thank you, Brian. Like this has been awesome. I love being able to talk about me instead of interviewing for once. It's such a change. You can find me on Twitter at Casey Kasem. I write for Rotoballer and Fantasy Six Pack, and with South Harmon Fantasy Football as well. I have my podcast, Get Real with Casey Kasem, which you can find on whatever platform you listen to your podcast, and SundayDreamersClub.com. SundayDreamersClub.com is my fantasy football inspired t shirt company. Lots of awesome shirts there. We'll be at the Fantasy Football Expo as well with a booth. So come out and say hi. And yeah, that's what I got going on.
I was gonna say everybody's asking. They have to know where those t-shirts are at. Absolutely, you got to load up. And Expo, great place to sport them.
Yeah,
Hundred
for
percent.
sure. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, for sure. Like this is what I'm trying to do with my life is be full time in this fantasy football industry. And this clothing company is a part of that because I know I love I love rocking my shirts. So this one says fantasy football love language. It's a very nice shirt. Yeah, so Any purchases just like warm my heart more than anything. So I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart for sure.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being on here. Everybody, I can't thank you enough for listening. Hit the buttons down below. You know the thing. Until next week, we'll see you, and thanks for listening.